freestyle calisthenics events including street workout, Ultimate Battle 6 in Spain. How was it holding the tricolor in your hand?
It is a childhood dream come true and it's a surreal experience. Everything just blanks out. Everyone is like from a different country, no one from India. And
welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. In the currently ongoing India-China disengagement, sources to NewsX have broken exclusive information. The tent removal process has begun on the night of the 24th of October. The demolition of sheds and tents removal was the first step as a part of the disengagement process. Depsang and Demchok, which are critical points for disengagement, have till now seen the removal of around 6 tents and temporary structures. The daily work that is being done is reportedly consistently discussed in a hotline call between local commanders. The complete withdrawal, as per our sources, will first conclude in Depsang and then in Demchok. Unnamed aerial vehicles and satellite images are set to be used for verification, is what we are being told. Well, the patrol teams will be maintaining a presence of 14-15 personnel during this disengagement process. Now, some breaking news also pouring in as to what comes next. The patrolling talks will resume at 4 buffer zones after the first step. The patrolling talks will be focusing on Yangtze in Arunachal. Remember, viewers, India and China had clashed at Yangtze in December 2022, and the focus now remains on resuming the pre-2022 patrolling areas in Yangtze. Ajay Jandyal, my colleague, is joining us on the broadcast to give us more insights about this. Ajay, well, this is absolutely positive. Demchok area and half of the temporary structures in Depsang are going to be, in fact, dismantled. Both the troops from both the sides will fall back to their pre-2020 April positions. We would all like to assume and hope and aspire that this will be the end of it. What do you know of the actual talks that are happening on ground? Have both the countries ironed out this engagement to a point where there is perhaps no dialogue going to be required a month from now?
Vineet, yes, it's a continuous process that talks were going on, and talks begin after this Galvan has happened, and even after during the talks, what we have seen that clashes were between the forces of both the sides in Pangong area, in Arunachal as well. We have seen that number of incidents has happened. But the positive thing was that there was continuous, talks were going on, and that resulted today. And by 28th and 29th, it is expected that things will be resolved, and most of the disengagement which has to take place in Demchok and other adjoining areas, that will take place very soon, and the patrolling will be resumed, because the pre-2020 situation is required, because if someone has to, we can say that go further and de-escalate the situation, then both the countries need this, and that is what exactly has happened. Our sources are saying that what they have decided that during this disengagement and on the regular basis, on daily basis, they are ground officers, they are taking stock of situation, they are meeting on a meeting point, they are taking the points and definitely discussing with each other that how things will unfold in the coming time. They are also feeding their top bosses that how things are taking place, how dismantling of structure is taking place, and how troops have to go back to their previous locations, and then patrolling will be started. So these are the positive things which is happening, and after this, patrolling will be started. But that is what our sources are saying, that there will be a patrolling on these locations in twice in a month. So that indicates that something positive is going to happen, and even after number of clashes, number of incidents where casualties have taken place, if this thing is happening, it means that things is going to be very positive in the coming time. And after this, is going to over, what our sources are saying, that there will be further de-escalation and disengagement on other locations as well, including the Galvan, where that major incident has happened, in which 20 Indian Army, they lost their life, and also they have gave damage to the neighboring Chinese troops as well. So that is also the point where they are going to discuss in the coming time.
Just stay with us. I'm also going to get in Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director of India Foundation and Defence Expert. Major General Sudhakar Ji, Defence Expert, also joins us on the program. General Katoch, we spoke about when these things went south about 4 years ago, right after COVID-19 and the pandemic had wreaked havoc across the world. And we all surmised that this was perhaps a big distraction that China was trying to create so that it's not blamed for the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a good sign that both these countries have realized that the Indo-China relationship is much more than the dispute and the friction at the border. But the fact of the matter is, when the patrolling comes into picture, is China going to stick to its word?
Thank you, Vineet. Vineet, I think this time they will stick to their word because the way the patrolling is going to be conducted, I don't think they are going to. There's not going to be joint patrol. Joint patrol means that both the sides will be, they'll form a joint patrol and then they will look-see into that area. No, we will patrol, say, twice a month and they will patrol twice a month, and I presume those days will be different. So once the days are different, then the question of a clash, etc., doesn't take place. And this patrolling will take place to where both the sides used to go and patrol earlier. So I think that is going to be sorted out. Basically, the issues which took place in 2020 will be sorted out. But the larger problem of the India-China border relationship, that I think is still a work in being. And so to that extent, the tensions will remain. When we talk of a breakthrough, there is only a breakthrough in this as far as the 2020 position is concerned. There is absolutely no breakthrough in the larger relationship between India and China. And to that extent, I hope that, the curbs which we have laid on certain items as far as China is concerned on trade, I hope they continue. Because unless China opens up its own markets on a reciprocal basis to India, I do not think that it should be one-sided anymore, simply because the situation which existed in the Galwan Valley and Demchok and Depsang in 2020, that has been restored. So for China, for us, we cannot even claim it as a victory because we have simply come back to where we were. For the Chinese, for the first time, they have actually lost out in the sense that they would always keep some of the territories which they illegally, which they have taken by salami slicing. But now they're going back. I think there is a political dimension to this also, which took place in the BRICS conference just a few days back. But all in all, it is a positive step. Let's be very clear about that. It is a positive step. It does mark a thaw in the relationship, and it forms a basis from where we can actually move forward and at least attempt to repair the relationship between the two countries. Vineet.
That's an excellent point. General Sudhakar Ji, obviously this has happened on the backdrop of the BRICS summit, where these major powers of the world, which represent 50% of humanity and 35% of the GDP of the world, came to this kind of a consensus. What do you think is the motive for China behind this thawing of position? Is there an ulterior motive? Is China trying to send a message to the Americans, by getting cozy to Russia and India? What do you make of this?
Good afternoon, Vinay. Thank you. And compliments to the co-panelists for having articulated their perspective. Yes, you are right. There is a huge geopolitical churning in place. And one incident in isolation will not give a holistic picture. You have to join the dots. Definitely, there is a very strong message going out to the Western alliances that all is not well. And for rules-based order, there are many things which have to be applied across the board for one and all in the same paradigm, same parameter. But having said that, Vinit, if you allow me, I just want to chip in with my perspective, having served and commanded the division myself. We are going back to pre-April 2020, that's fine. But we need to be mindful of a couple of issues. That whatever agreement or protocols were in existence till they were violated by the Chinese, in June 2020 or April 2020. Firstly, those protocols, we need to be very clear that you simply cannot junk a 40-year of effort to achieve peace and tranquility along the border. Therefore, there is a requirement to reconsider, revisit the revival of the same protocols which were signed in 93, 96, 2005, 12 and 13. There are many more which have not come to the light, but these are the essential 5 things. Second thing I wish to highlight, since your basic central theme is patrolling, resumption of the patrolling, and we are thankful to General Kotoj for having clarified these are not joint patrols. We are going back to a system which was already in practice, already in vogue, and they would come in a different time frame. These are all stipulated. There is a program which is exchanged. We inform each other. We come to the areas which both the sides, either side is claiming to be theirs. But having said that, I personally feel it's a new chapter which is beginning. We need to address those issues which actually were trigger points to actually blow up the issue. For example, shadowing of patrol. It is called a tailing of patrol. It is there in the protocols in 93 as also 96 and 2005. There will be no tailing of patrol carried out, meaning if Indian patrol is going to its point X, the Chinese patrol should not come out of the blue and start tailing them or shadow them. This is neither accepted in the protocol nor should it be allowed. Second point I wish to highlight in this perspective is that there was a stage wherein Chinese, they used to come to the areas which they claimed, they used to carry out a lot of leave behind telltale marks. This also is a potential trigger to sour the relations. It starts with a small thing, but it actually, grows up into a very ugly manifestation of the assertion by the Chinese. Third and most important thing is that Depsang and Demchok, these are all legacy points. That is fine. It is not happening for the first time. It happened in 2013 in Depsang. And if I recall, if I respect my memory, 2014 was in Demchok. They went back after a very extended negotiation. They also dismantled everything, but they have come back. Now, there has to be some inbuilt guarantee in the new agreement or the understanding that we have. It should be legally bound, technically bound, and to be complied with the stakeholders so that it is not repeated in future. The next point I wish to highlight in this is that this should be taken as a takeoff point to resolve the border issue once and for all. I, for one, notwithstanding the optimism which you, me, all of us in the panel discussion which are sharing, I personally feel that in case of warfare, one should be very suspicious, and the trust has taken a very, very deep beating. It is very difficult to revive trust with a country like China. And since I have served along Tawang, I have served here, I have also served in the north, the middle sector, dealt with Bhutan. There are many things happening. Vineet, if you have time, 1 more minute, let me share. While this may be back to the pre-April, there are things like there are 628 border villages which are intact and in place. There are oil pipelines, there are optical fibers, there are connectivities which have been improved. There is a railway line which is coming up to Shigat. It's already built. There are airfields been developed. What are these meant for? 120 kilometers away from this Depsang plain to a China side, they have built a billeting facility for 120,000 troops. You mean to say the money is going to be thrown into the dust like this? What is that meant for? So it is not very close to Kashgar, but it is in the axis of Kashgar and touching the sea peak in the Xinjiang province. So all that I'm trying to say, for things to actually
right. So you've put things into perspective, but to put the history as to what really happened and how it started, we're just going to take you through a group of graphics which will enunciate and showcase to you what really happened, how it started. If I can request the production control room to in fact focus on my laptop, where I have these cutout maps of how things started and how they in fact evolved to the thawing of positions from both the sides. Of course, it all started in 2020. There was a Chinese build-up. in Demchok, and if I zoom in and I can actually show you what were the kind of deployments that were made by the Chinese at this particular location. In August 2021, the PLA came up with an extensive camp structure, which was of course captured by American satellites as well as Indian satellites, and of course this was a high point in the relationship between these two countries. The tensions were at their peak, at their zenith. In 2022, we got to see some more PLA posts. We also got to see a runway and some technical areas come up, which only facilitated the kind of intentions that India thought China was brewing. This is Depsang in 2020, and this is of course a top view, a cross-sectional view of the border, the LAC, and on one side you can see how India was perhaps trying to up its ante when it came to Chinese aggression, and on the other hand you can see right here how the Chinese were expanding their infrastructure to counter India's position there. And this is Depsang once again. This is the PLA post, October 22. The Chinese build-up in Depsang continues, and of course this is an image which was also published in a number of Chinese journals as well to show their preparedness against what they call as enemy India. 2023, and of course you can see right here these intricate details where these are highlighted by the red outline here, and they continue to show how China was aggressively building up on the border. The latest images that we have also show us that there has been a considerable disengagement. We've heard from the defense experts what we know so far, that this thaw took place because of an outreach by the Prime Minister at the BRICS summit, and this is also something which is not only to do with the outreach, it also has to do with the shifting and the changing geopolitical environment and situation throughout the world. The American elections are also going to take place in a couple of weeks. The weakening dollar, the weakening Chinese economy, and of course the war in the Middle East, especially now with Israel attacking Iran in that full-fledged display of force, is also something which is going to define a lot of these events which are going to be seen throughout the world. Ajay Jandyal, my colleague, is still with us on the broadcast. He's already given us the details of what's happened at Depsang and some of the other parts where India has been continuously holding talks at the Commander Corps level, Ajay, but nothing really transpired. What is going to be the next step here? You heard from our defense experts as well. They're of the view that this is definitely a good sign. However, there are conservatives as well, Ajay, who feel that we should not trust China completely.
Well, they are rightly saying, because we know that what has happened in the past as well. If you remember that whenever talks took place, right after that incident has happened, whether it was this finger area where Pakistan once again tried to, Chinese troops, they basically was trying to occupy a finger area, but Indian forces, they have preempted it and retaliated accordingly, and that attempt was foiled. Other than that, we have seen that what has happened in the other LAC areas in Arunachal or other which are there with China. So these things will happen, and that's why we have seen that in the last 4 years, what has happened on the line of actual control, that Defense Ministry have established most of the roads, most of the bunkers where forces are staying. And earlier what was happening, that during the harsh winter, troops basically they came back in their bunkers and stayed there during the tough time and the harsh weather, and then they returned to their location. And China was taking advantage of these times to occupy the Indian territory. But that was totally stopped after Galvan has happened, and Indian forces, they stayed around the clock there on the line of actual control. And that's why even Chinese troops, they understood, Chinese authorities, they understood that this is not the India which was doing such things in the past. And now the routine is that Indian forces, they are well equipped, they are well settled and well established there to dominate their areas, and they are ensuring that if China and Chinese troops, they are trying to do such misadventure on the line of actual control, they have to retaliate them. So And that's why these regular talks which was taking place with this incident which were happening, that has given result, and Chinese also understood that they have to stay somewhere and they have to take some stand. So no doubt that disengagement has started on Demchok and Depsang area, but as far as the Indian forces and defense ministry is concerned, they will continuously monitor the things on the line of actual control, whether it is Ladakh, whether it is other areas, because they know the Chinese, conduct which they have done in the past. They always try to create trouble for the line of on the line of actual control. No doubt that there is no, demarcation on the LAC area in Ladakh and other areas, and that's why such clashes are taking place. But it doesn't mean that you will do whatever you want. So that's why they have been held by the forces on the ground, and this is going to happen. So till 28th and 29th, it is expected that disengagement process will take place, and after that, patrolling twice a month, it is expected that will take place on these locations. But in further talks will also go forward as far as the further disengagement is concerned. But it doesn't mean that forces are going to leave these areas unattended and they are going to trust China, like our defense expert was saying that why Chinese they are constructing the bunkers, they have created roads, helipad, airfields on their side. So that indicates that China is a country whom no one can trust, and that is what our forces and authorities are going to do in the coming time.
All right. General Katoch, of course, India is all up for the 3 Ds, which is disengagement, de-escalation and de-induction of more troops. China says that whatever is happening at the border or did happen at the border should not affect bilateral ties. India is of the opinion that whatever happens at the border will affect bilateral ties. Who do you think has extended this olive branch when it comes to de-escalation, or let's say the thawing of the situation?
I think, this has lasted for 4 years. And during these 4 years, the Chinese forces, they tested the Indian resolve. And they found it unshakable. You see, it is not simply the military. The military would have been there. The army is there, and with the backup of the Indian Air Force. So that is not the problem at issue, and they would have remained there. It is the political resolve, I think, which really has changed the situation. So China thought at some point of time that the Indian resolve will weaken. That has not happened, and they know it is not going to happen in the future also. So I think that has been one of the very important takeaways. Number two, the way, as mentioned by Ajay and mentioned by you also, the geopolitical situation is shifting. And today, India is the swing player. You see, whichever side India goes, that side is going to win. And there is there is a power contestation taking place right now. And India is not going to play to any bloc. India is going to play to India's bloc. So I think that change is there. And both the Americans will be wary of what India does, and so will China and Russia. But India will play it both ways. We are part of the Quad. We are very happy as part of the Quad. Our maritime interests are preserved there. We are part of the BRICS. Our continental interests are preserved as part of the BRICS. So in either way, India is going to play India's game. India is not going to fall into their game. And I think this is very astute management of India's foreign policy, along with political resolve, that has made the difference. You see, the Indian Army was always there. It is the same Indian Army. The resolve has changed now. So I think there are a lot of the political backing behind it is improved, and the improvement which has taken place in the infrastructure right up to the border in the last 10 years is unimaginable. That is also something which rattled the Chinese, but it'll continue from our side, and that will put some sort of a balance in the relationship. Vineet.
All right. General Sudhakarji, concluding thoughts, sir, before we wrap up?
In fact, we should all be mindful of the fact that there was a white paper by one of the think tanks in China, which had given out about 2 years back, post-pandemic, that if China has to achieve its rejuvenate the Middle Kingdom concept by 2049 or earlier than that, they can't do it without India. So also, there are many aspects: economy, the HR, the aging population decline, and the biggest thing that is happening is the shifting, like the entire geopolitical dynamics is gravitating away from the west to the east, that is to the Indo-Pacific. And the Indo-Pacific, the maritime sea lanes of communication, China has realized that more than it can assert itself or enhance its footprints along the maritime, the ports and you call it that Silk Road, India has actually evolved itself and taken a very aggressive and proactive step to dominate the complete sea, be it the 9-degree channel, the 6-degree or the 10-degree or the Malacca Strait, Philippines, right up to South China Sea. India has been able to assert itself and expand the sphere of influence, look towards the west, from Malacca, from the Persian Gulf, gone up to right up to the Mediterranean, and in the east, India has been able to assert its military presence and also footprint beyond Malacca Strait to South China Sea. I would
All right, sir.
specific in the Philippines. Last but not the least is that we should be mindful of the fact China will never do anything until unless its national interests are fulfilled.
Understood,
India
sir.
also should be mindful that
All right,
we
sir.
have
We've
a
run out of time. Would like to thank Ajay, Jal Katoch and Jal Sudhakarji for joining us. We take a short break. Be right back.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें आईटीवी और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। आईटीवी नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। आईटीवी नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से आईटीवी नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। आईटीवी नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
Freestyle calisthenics events including street workout, Ultimate Battle 6 in Spain. How was it holding the tricolor in your hand?
It is a childhood dream come true, and it's a surreal experience. Everything just blanks out. Everyone is like from a different country, no one from India, and I am there with the flag.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. Now, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's visit to India has marked a significant milestone in the long-standing partnership between both the countries. Following Prime Minister Narendra Modi's return from the BRICS summit in Kazan, the two leaders met at the Hyderabad House in New Delhi to deepen bilateral cooperation. In a joint press meet, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the launch of the India-Germany Innovation and Technology Roadmap, underlining a comprehensive whole-of-government approach focused on critical and emerging technologies, skill development and innovation. The Prime Minister emphasized that this roadmap will bolster areas like artificial intelligence, semiconductor production and clean energy, and the key fields for future growth and sustainability as well. Chancellor Scholz reciprocated by sharing Germany's vision to attract skilled labour from India, with a groundbreaking increase in skilled visas from 20,000 to 90,000 annually. Scholz announced a unique India-specific agenda to address Germany's workforce needs, emphasizing collaboration in healthcare, in IT, care and sectors, and reflecting the high regard Germany holds for India as a partner. The Chancellor further underscored Germany's commitment to strengthening ties in sustainable technologies, green energy and semiconductor production, recognizing India as a pivotal hub for green hydrogen, which is a sector where German companies are keen to contribute to India's emerging success. Both the leaders affirmed their shared values and the importance of political solutions for global stability, stressing the need for a balanced multipolar world. Now, this is an interesting development that has taken place. Let's start our conversation. Ambassador Manju Seth on the telecast with me.